could see go down the hillside?
Used to be, when you're going to high school, you have to find something to do, and you're allowed to drive. And we would take a friend. Frequently the friend would be a lady. And you'd go out and you'd park here, and you'd watch them. They were pouring all night and building Summerfield. Did you? Oh.
And then Century 3 Mall, I think, out there.
Yeah.
I think near there they had a big pile. Yeah. My grandfather went to Mount Lebanon High School. He graduated in 1933. So he's a little younger than you, but he used to do the same thing on dates.
Huh.
That's funny. Did you ever go to the Dennis Theater in Mount Lebanon?
Several thousand times. That's still operating.
Well, I think it's closed. It's still, they're trying to reopen it now.
Well, what they've been doing for a number of years, a group of active people have been raising funds to try to get it open. But they have, during this period of time, they have had entertainment of some sort or another. It's never really shut down altogether.
Oh, that's good.
And there's a theater in Dormont called the Potomac. And I think that Potomac Theater probably was built before the earth was invented. But it's still working. Now that's 2 in Pittsburgh, and or maybe another couple.
Mm.
But they still get people turn out.
Yes, not as many theaters as there used to be in Pittsburgh.
That's for sure.
There used to be a lot more downtown. And do you remember, do you take the trolley everywhere? Would you take the streetcars to work? Or?
I took buses. I think I took buses from where I lived. It was more convenient because it was basically on a straight shot to downtown Pittsburgh.
And where did you live? I mean, when you were an adult?
In Mount Lebanon.
Oh, you still lived in Mount Lebanon. Okay. Oh.
With my parents. On a no rent basis.
And where did you live in Pittsburgh when you got married?
With my parents. No, I don't think either one of my parents. Well, let me put it this way. I married a girl whose father was the best pastry chef in the world, in all of history. And I consider that he and my father were the 2 greatest men who ever lived. But her mother was somewhat of a problem. She was, what's this sewing thing in Europe? It would be like witches. Anyway, she and her mother had a consulting engineering business, and that was on process engineering. She and her mother consulted with firms in well, it's the Far East. It would be called the Far East. Anyway, firms that she taught them how to kill, how to operate. She and her mother. Now that may not be exactly true, but I couldn't stand her mother. She was no good.
Dirty.
And her parents were 2 of the finest people that ever lived.
And what, I forgot to ask, what did your parents do?
My father was president of Union Barge Line, and that was the largest inland transportation company. And they had now they bought all of their equipment from Trevaux. That means barges, towboats, anything that floated, Draveau built, except one thing, and it was during the heart of the war. And that was a towboat, a steam towboat, stern wheeler, or oil fired, and he bought it in Marietta, Ohio, because Draveau had no more capacity. So he told me he had bought a stern wheeler, which I had the great pleasure of piloting, incidentally. And in any event, he told me that it was built in Marietta, Ohio, and and it was named the Jason. And I said, well, how did it get named the Jason? That was not typical of Draveau. They named their towboats after people, and they weren't really towboats. They were pushers. But how did he get his name on it? And my father said, July, August, September, October, November. And that really was the only big thing that Draveau ever built. And it was wonderful. I loved it. I got to pilot it on the Ohio, or on the Mississippi River. They didn't push as fast as the diesel-powered with propellers. But I got to pilot both kinds. And I wonder if my father had anything to do with that. I think maybe. But I sure enjoyed summer vacations from high school.
Where would you go?
On the Mississippi and the Ohio River.
You go from Pittsburgh all the way down to the Mississippi.
Oh, no, I rode a boat.
No, but that's what I mean. Yeah, you took a boat all the way down.
And then down the Mississippi to New Orleans. The round trip was, I know I've told you this, it was either 3,000 miles or 6,000 miles. But it was a long trip. 1,000.
Probably 6.
God. I wish I had studied this a little bit.
It was a long ride.
Huh.
Wow.
In fact, I even got to pilot boats that coming back home into the locks and the dams. In a lock, normally the towboat, which really was a pusher, normally would have 20 barges in the tow coming up the Mississippi. And it was very nice. And almost any time during the week, one of the pilots would say, "Hey Lee, get over here." Now, I didn't tell you about the depth of the river, did I?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the government either took over or paid for it. I don't know how they did it. Guaranteeing that the rivers would be deep enough to handle towboats and with barges, to the extent they would be a 13-foot depth guaranteed. So that was kind of fun seeing that going on too.
You would see them dredge the river from time to time.
Yeah. Anytime you went anywhere in the river, you would see towboat or dredges. And they'd pump it up onto an island or somewhere. They would make use of what they dredged out of the bottom of it.
That's amazing. Well, again, thank you for taking your time for me today.
Where is this
I
going to
do
go?
appreciate that. This is going to go into the Rivers of Steel archive, and then, so nobody will ever sell it or anything like that. Nobody will make a book of your story. This is just purely just for education. So in 50 years, 100 years, people can always look back. It's fascinating. I really
Well,
appreciate this.
it's interesting. If I ever go into the river transportation business, I'll know where to go.
Yes.